Well, thank you. All good with the technology?
Yes.
I still see question marks. It irritates me a bit, but that's okay. So welcome. I just want to introduce myself real quick in regards of what I'm doing here today. I mean, I could talk about me and what I'm doing a long time, but I think there are 4 necessary things that you need to know about me because why I'm here today. The first thing is that I used to be an elementary school teacher and vice principal in Germany. So I have an extended background in education, in elementary school education, that is. Also a little administrative, but more the teacher part. I also used to teach the German for Preschoolers program here, which means that I'm not only a teacher, but also a language teacher. And again, as you can see, because it's preschooler program, it's geared towards littler kids. I'm also a mother of 4 kids who are all home today, thanks to, you know how that is, yeah. So I'm used to code switching, of teaching a foreign language, of kind of trying to keep in my mother tongue and raising them in my native language, but also to support them in their second language education. And now I'm in my 2nd year as a PhD student here at MSU in German studies. So I'm trying to get a foot into how to teach German to Americans, which is a different approach because first of all the age is a little different than what I used to, and also it's a different language because in Germany I actually did teach English to my elementary school students, but here I'm teaching German to Americans. So it's still language pedagogy. So what I'm doing today is that I want to introduce a curricula idea that I had a while ago when I was getting my feet wet at MSU and started a lifelong education program, and I had a class with Senta Görtler, who is a professor here at MSU for German Studies, that was called Teaching German Culture. So this box that I will present to you now derived from one of the projects that I had to do in her class that is trying to combine German culture with something else. And this something else is what I'm going to introduce now. This is the something else. So when I had my kids starting school here, of course, because I was a teacher, I was very curious about what they are learning, what they come home with, what the school is talking about, new projects, and I heard the word STEM and STEAM all the time. We have STEM projects, we will do a STEAM week. I was like, well, what is all of that? So yes, science, technology, engineering, later the arts, and mathematics. I thought, well, this is a well-rounded, nice approach to something that we in Germany call MINT, Mathematik, Informatik, Naturwissenschaften und Technik, which is important because apparently the job industry is offering more and more jobs in these fields than in any other. So if you have a background in whatever informatics, science, technology there is, you are more likely to get a job than when you don't have it. But I am a language teacher. I am a German language teacher, and here I am talking about STEAM and MINT. So how can I actually combine that? This is, I actually probably had to switch those. This is just the projected percentage increase of STEM jobs until next year, basically. So you see how many jobs there are in STEM-related fields. So I thought, well, there must be a way to combine what I like to do, meaning German language teaching or any foreign language teaching, with what is apparently needed, and that is STEM. So my question was, how can I combine German or any other foreign language and culture teaching with STEM and MINT? I really briefly, because I probably know that especially why we teach languages in school is what you know because you are doing that as well or have a background in that. But very quickly wanted to show you why STEAM learning in schools is important and why language learning is important, and how, when we compare those, there are similarities or maybe differences. So STEAM, we teach STEAM, teachers teach STEAM in schools because they offer meaningful collaborations between the students who are working on projects. So they experience teamwork, they experience how they can work on different things together, and they have to talk about it to come to a solution. It increases critical thinking because they don't come to one solution from one angle. They have to think about different approaches to come up with one solution. It promotes equal rights, especially because STEAM is also geared towards only girl projects or people with minority backgrounds, that they get a special education in that to boost their confidence and to get them into those jobs. It exposes students to creative processes, so they really want to, those projects and the whole idea of STEAM teaching is really about how can we get the children to think about something in a different way, how can we combine what we know about from different angles to come up with one new creative solution. And it's because art is also, came in later, it's also a different approach to value arts in the progress. And as I said, it's good for the future in the job market. And language, it's pretty easy, the same. I mean, sometimes it's just the same way. We don't say we offer meaningful collaboration, but language learning is all about communication anyways. We learn a language to be able to communicate in a written or in an oral way. It increases critical thinking, yes, because sometimes you don't know how you express something in a different language, so you have to come up with a different way. Either it's hands or mimic, or it's an English word even, you code switch, whatever. So it increases your critical thinking in that way as well. It's supposed to be, and I just put it there because it matched so nicely, also promotes equal rights. I found that on the ACTFL homepage. I'm not 100% sure how I should interpret that. The only way I could think of is that people from different nationalities are seen equally because they have their own kind of language, their own culture that they bring in. Otherwise, I found that comparison a little wonky. Yeah, learning a different language boosts test scores, and it helps prevent age-related cognitive decline. And yes, it's also good for the future in the job market. So what you can see is there are many, many reasons that are actually the same. So STEAM and language learning are really not that different. So I thought, well, if that is the case, how can we put one and one together and make something that is even more well-rounded than the STEAM approach already is, in my opinion. So that's why I created this box, Full Steam Ahead with Minted German. As I said, this is because I came up with that idea in a German class. This is really geared toward German right now. What I'm going to explain to you is my German idea, but I think it's very applicable to other languages as well. So what it is not is probably helpful to understand. I don't think it's foreign language across the curriculum. That is a term that we find in schools a lot, which means that through the help of a language, another subject is being taught. At least on my level, that's not what it is. So I created this box really for elementary school students in mind, because this is where I have my expertise, this is where I have my background. When you think about higher learners, like maybe on a college level, I think that and maybe even CLIL will become more apparent and probably also a useful approach to start this. But for my approach, for my box right now, this is not what I had in mind. So this is really a new idea that started, as I said, in that class. And I will now present this box to you. So this is basically a class project. So the whole box is eventually meant to just go to the teacher with all materials inside, so the teacher can just grab it from the shelf and say, wow, this is an awesome idea. I want to do something with flying machines, because this is the title of this box, Flying Machines. Then all the materials, so he would call ahead, in my vision, and say, well, I have 30 students, so there will be 30 copies from all the worksheets, there will be 30 pencils, there will be, well, 30 iPads, probably not, maybe hopefully the school has something like that, but so all the materials will be already in there and ready to go, and the teacher only has to set up stations in the classroom and he's ready to go, or she. Because I'm combining language and culture with this STEAM approach, there is no prior language knowledge needed. So even the teacher, if he wants to just say, well, I'm talking about flying things anyways, let's just combine German with that, great. So there is no language that he needs to know. There is there is German in that box. The kids will get to, they will be exposed to German words, they will be exposed to German culture. But most of the words are cognates, so they will see, oh, I know a German word, and then they go home and say, Mom, I know German. Did you know that kindergarten is a German word? Which is not, of course, related to flying machines, but it's one of those words that because I have kindergartners, is stuck in my head right now. So it's the cognates are one part, but the whole box is intended for students to really be curious about a language, to get their feet a little bit wet, to get a little bit of a cultural background and say, oh yeah, this is actually great. Maybe I should take up a language later and be compatible with others who take a language, or be even smarter because I take up a language. I don't know. So all those materials that are in here, they are supposed to create excitement and curiosity in the students. It's, as I said, an off-the-shelf, ready-to-go bundle in my dreams for maybe in a decade, I don't know. And all the projects are activity-based, hands-on, and they also, every task combines the STEAM idea with a language or a culture idea. So I'm now showing you what I have in here. For easier access, I also put the ideas on the board here. So, for example, the first thing is that they learn about storks. Why storks, you will say? Because, oops, stepping out of the zone here, sorry. Storks are the animals that the German inventor of flying machines, Otto Lilienthal, when he was a little kid, he observed storks. And because they were big birds, he could see them with his eyes. We didn't have anything like video recording at that point where he could zoom on, and he had to visibly watch them with his eyes. So storks were his initial approach to think about how to create a flying machine. So students would get a short, well, it's for fifth graders, right? Fourth, fifth graders, so that is already pretty long, but they get a text in English about storks and how they live in Germany and what they do and that they migrate and what they eat and how their nests are. And some of the words, as you can see, are marked in red, and those are the German words. So, for example, nest, because it's a cognate, it's pretty easy also with the pronunciation to come up to understand that. Of course, the English translation is always given right after in the brackets. And then we talk about the metric system, because the nest is, yes, 6 feet in diameter, but I said it's 2 Meter. So Germans are using a different metric system. So I pointed that out while marking it red. And winter is also one of the cognates, is when storks are migrating. I put one new word in there that the students probably don't know in English. It's Traum, for dream. So when they read, they can read some of the German words and notice, oh yeah, I know that word, I've heard that before, like the word nest or winter. And then they can fill in blanks so that they do understand that storks are, at least for Otto Lilienthal, the initial idea to start thinking about how to create a flying machine. They are also allowed in that process to look at storks, at pictures, because this is what Otto Lilienthal also did. And there's a link to YouTube that I would technically have on my iPad for you to watch, but since it's snow days and the kids were playing, it's out of batteries. I mean, I can show you, I put the link on here. Oops, no, I didn't want to do that, sorry. I wanted to do this. Sorry. There is the link is here, or not. Okay. Well, you should always test it before you show it, right? So there was a link to a little movie where you could see a stork standing on the nest flapping his wings, because even when people try to film a stork flying by, it's very wonky, but that stork was on his nest and really flapping his wings, and you could see the specific shape that Otto Lilienthal tried to draw here. This is his drawing, so this was also something that the kids would get to look at, and from kind of there see that it's not only a thin paper, that the wings are kind of shaped in a special form, because this is how you actually can fly when they have a certain build, and you can see that very well here on the kind of ovally shaped wing.
Do you need the video, does it have narration? Like,
No,
it's just.
it's just a quiet thing. Yeah, that's why I picked it. And then they will also learn a small culture snippet about storks, because the whole story about that storks are the child bringers and stuff originated from Germany. There are several other stories about that you put some cookies and milk out for the stork if the wife wants to get pregnant. So there are kind of rumors and old wife tales about that bird that are really good to know. And I mean, it's really something that is so special for Germany that it's even spreading. I mean, I see storks here that have the little baby in its beak, and it's everywhere, but it's originating from Germany. So this is a very important thing to mention. Also, and this is just an idea that you could put on the wall as a teacher, there are several vocabularies that are the same for an airplane or a stork that they could just look at and see, oh yeah, this is interesting. That's why I put it in red here, wie interessant, how interesting. But of course, there are other things to learn as well. For example, about Otto Lilienthal, and who is that guy? Oh, that doesn't work. Is that guy over here, the German inventor of flying machines. And Graf von Zeppelin, who invented the blimp, is also from Germany. I had a longer text originally planned about the White brothers, because they probably are better known in the States, because they picked up on Lilienthal's idea about flying machines and then invented airplanes as well, which actually flew better than Lilienthal's. But you know, you have to start somewhere and then people pick up and make it even better. But I thought I would also implement some women, because this is the whole idea of STEAM, to also get people from, I don't want to say minorities, but people like women and people of a different race into the whole project. So I found these two women, actually, Marion Ruth, I found at an exhibit at the Kalamazoo Air Zoo that I went to with my kids a few years back. And there was a whole exhibit only about women in aviation. That was really eye-opening to me, because I only thought about, yeah, I knew Zeppelin, I knew Lilienthal, I knew the Wright brothers, and that was about it. But that there were so many, especially instructors, who were female, that was new to me. So I learned a bunch while creating this box as well. And of course, Amelia Earhart. She cannot be missing when we talk about aviation. So again, it's a lot of reading for them, reading about German words that you can now detect easily with, well, because I marked them red. Then there are tons of projects for the kids to do. Of course, when you think about flying machines, the first thing that naturally kind of pops up is our airplanes that the kids build out of paper. So it's hard to implement German culture in a project like that. But what I thought was that I designed the worksheet in a way that I was taught to use in Germany. So we have kind of the task at the top, then a question, and then kind of it's guided through like a real science manual, sort of, so that you come up with that you have the material that you need, and then the execution, and then you have to write down your observation and an analysis. I haven't seen a format like that from my kids in school, so I thought, well, this is helpful, so the teacher doesn't have to run around hectically from one group to the other, but this is actually really easy for them to do by themselves. As you can see on the picture right here, I tested the whole box with a bunch of fifth graders a while ago. I also did a pre and post test to see if it's really working. And it was a little compromised, is it the right word? In a way that my older two sons also were in that group, and of course they knew German. But the 5 other kids that we had in our basement trying everything out, they didn't. I mean, they knew like kindergarten and maybe another word like hallo or like danke, but that was it. And then in the end, it was just a 2-hour play date, basically, that I set up with, well, but you have to test my box and see if it works. They remembered some, but it's not like a long time post-test thing. It's just immediately afterwards I asked them, oh, what did you remember? What did you learn? So it seemed to work. They had fun. They didn't ask once for a snack or for something else. They were really involved in the whole box for those 2 hours. That was very, very good to see. So with those airplanes, they can fold them their own way. They can follow directions, whatever they want. And in the end, they are supposed to make a little competition. And they have to measure how long the airplanes fly. And of course, they have to measure that with using meters and not inches and feet. So they are actually using the metric system. And I thought in 5th grade, you could also start, calculating a mean to see whichever airplane flew the furthest in general. So they would also talk about, well, my airplane was a little heavier because I gave them a little scale to measure how heavy they are. And then the design, mine was wider, and that's why it didn't flew so wide, because yours was smaller and was a little better in the air. So they really talked about the design and came up with ideas and solutions why one airplane flew farther than the other one. Then I had some experiments, and I don't know if you know, this is so easy. You just hold a piece of paper and can explain what lift is pretty quickly. You just have it and you blow on it, and you see that it lifts. And because this is of the, of the air particles that you are pushing away, and then the others press from the bottom. But kids don't know, so they're like, well, why is this happening? Well, why is it coming up? It's like magic. What is it? Like, is there something underneath? So they start to learn about how an airplane actually can lift up, how anything can be up, but it's not heavy. Why? So and then they learn with a different one. So they are kind of building a wing that looks like a stork wing, and when you build this and then you run around, you can see that this thing actually lifts up. So this oval thingy that you have on a stick, because you kind of have to hold it, when you move it, it moves up. So then the kids see, oh yeah, this is actually this is how lift works. This is why an airplane can get up, because it has the power and then it lifts. And again, everything that is, the worksheets are prepared in a German style. I just call it this way. So you will hear you get some additional information. So the kids that are really interested, they can read a little bit more about why this is happening and such. And then, of course, we need to talk about art. We had math with the meters, with the metric system. We had technology. We had all the things but arts. So during the World War, unfortunately, it's not a nice topic, but the airplanes were camouflaged so that you couldn't see them from the bottom or from the top. So you can talk about camouflaging, and you learn about different shapes of landscape. You can learn about colors. So this is a very easy approach to come to, in that topic, to fit in the colors. So you can then color your own airplane and decide, well, am I looking at it from the bottom, so I cannot see it, so it has to be more like bluish, like in the sky, or the other way around. When I look at it from a different airplane from the top, it has to look like the landscape that is under us, to kind of blend in. So this is all for, as you can tell, for elementary school students. It's not so much for students here. So I'm right now not teaching 5th graders, but I would like to implement a box like that. So is there anything I can do? So I thought about possible extensions. And I mean, you're all educators. You probably, while I was talking about it, were already thinking, yeah, I could probably put this a little longer, and I can make it a little bit more harder, like this. You can make your own exhibition with things like that, like an airplane that you have to camouflage, or even build maybe a little better out of balsa wood or plastic, or let them design their own airplane, not out of paper, but a little bit more complex. You can do a field trip to the air zoo in Kalamazoo. It's not that far. You can, as I said, there's a whole exhibit about airplanes, aviation, women in aviation. It's really interesting. So just step outside East Lansing and see what is there to implement that. Or even for older students, when you Google flying machines or whatever, I'm not the first person who's teaching that, who's ever thought about that. So there's stuff out there, it's amazing. So this I just copied and pasted from it's really an amazing, really written text about everything that has been done about the dream of flying, because it's older than Otto Lilienthal. He was not the first who thought about flying. There were, Leonardo da Vinci, books were written way before Otto Lilienthal even was born. So you can make a whole booklet out of the whole topic. When did that happen? You start with how do you pronounce this in English? Icarus and Daedalus. Daedalus. Okay. So, I mean, this is very, very old. So, as old as the dream for mankind is of flying, this is how long there are texts and resources of things that you can do and read about. So, you can even have them research on Google and build in technology into the whole thing. So what I wanted to talk about with you now is how to create our own boxes for students. As I said, this is for very young kids. I hope that I get a chance to try this box out a little bit more with students at an elementary school program and after school program here, so that I have more data to show you, because right now it's basically an idea and I only tested it with 7 kids in my basement. So there is not a lot of research and actual data there yet. But I'm hoping that I can implement with a different group. And I also started to contact the STEAM teacher at the middle school here in East Lansing to see if maybe a topic that he can think about, I can do something like that. It doesn't have to be flying machines. It can be a different topic, and that I can then try with his students. So I have a little research project on hands. So and this leads over to how I created this box. I thought about a topic first. Well, flying machines was very easy to come up with because there is this German inventor and there is the World War II that we had airplanes a lot. So that was a very easy topic to come up with. But while thinking about that, I also thought about time. Well, we can also make a project box about time, or Berlin or any other city in numbers. So how many bike paths do they have, and how many undergrounds, and what is an underground system, and how does it work? And if you think about a specific person in your native country, Gutenberg with the book printing also was like, oh yeah, sure, you can do a whole unit about that, and then implement German language and culture in it. Or musicians, why not talk about Bach and the fugue? It's just a possible different topic that you can make a box out of. Or green Germany, because Germany is known for reusable and recyclable energies and all that. So I bet that there is tons of resources out there for that topic alone. So first, you need to think about a topic that you would like to steaminize, mintize, and then put language and culture in it. And then, of course, the resources, because we all don't have a lot of time to create all of that. Yes, if you are a poor grad student and you have to do it for a project, you have to put in a lot of time. But other than that, there are so many resources out there. I mean, for us in Germany, I know the Goethe Institute has tons of materials. And even little museums, like the Impression 5 Museum here, has a STEAM and STEM site online available for you. And if you step outside East Lansing, as I said, with the Air Zoo, there is the Museum of Science and Industry in Chicago, who also, I mean, you don't have to go to Chicago, but you can look online and they have tons of ideas and even material that you can just download. I know that there are, for French, for Spanish and Italian, there are similar learning resources like what I just mentioned in German. I'm not trying to read them because my French is long forgotten and I never learned Spanish and Italian, but those resources are out there. And then, of course, think about the level of the learners. As I said numerous times now, this box was really created for kids who didn't have any language knowledge in the language that I wanted to get across before. So at the total beginner level, some German or whatever foreign language it is, words are good. Talk about the German culture, maybe about the geography, some songs, and then counting in German, learning the numbers would be like the mint it up. Because the mint, as I said, is the equivalent to STEAM, so everything has to be put together here. And those are just the words that were in my box. So it's a lot of numbers and colors, and then a lot of nouns. And if you just give them like little snippets, like I have blah, 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 then they can already describe a picture. Like, ich habe 5 Störche. I have 5 storks or whatever. So they are already able, after working with the box, to kind of create little sentences. If you, of course, give them a little bit of help. But if they are curious and they want to say, well, how can I say that? you just give those little chunks to them, and they are able to describe pictures and to talk at home about something. So I mean, I was really amazed how much I put in that box when I listed it all up. I was like, well, this is quite a lot, but it's just, it happens en passant, and they are just reading about it, maybe memorizing it, I don't know, but it's there. They just worked with that. In the intermediate level and then also in the advanced level, and this is probably then more approachable for students here, just use the workbook. Whatever you have on hand, they can just use that. You can invite people. I mean, I just came up with the idea to, for the advanced level, to invite a pilot and interview him, maybe in, or possibly in the language that they are learning. So, I mean, there are possibly endless possibilities that you can create your box with. I'm now just starting to teach at a undergrad level, so I haven't implemented anything like that yet because I'm only a fellow. I only have a fellowship this semester, so I'm not teaching by myself. I also always have to talk with my supervisor if that's okay, and I know that because we have to be leveled at the end of the semester, that we have to cover the same topics in the other classroom, so it's probably hard to implement something like that, but why not? Maybe a project for a week might be something that I can think about. So when we now think about building our own boxes, and because we are not so many people, we can probably just do it all together. We need to come up with a topic, then think about the resources and about the level of our learners, and then we can start thinking about the tasks that are in the box. I mean, I pulled out only one worksheet, but the rest is basically the same. So I put my everything that I posted on the PowerPoint is in there too. They're just to show you that there are pencils in there. There's this measuring band that I actually also made myself, and kids can also make themselves, so that they have the metric system on hand, things to craft with, and then tons of paper. So when we now think about a topic, we need to also have in mind that it has to kind of fit in a box if we want to play with that thing that I started with, and that all the tasks, they have to be printable for them, usable. There has to be the material for the airplanes in there so they can fold and start right away. Because, I mean, as a teacher, I know that you don't want to create new things all the time. You don't have the time for that. But if you know that there is a box like that ready to go, yes, it's like it's the best thing ever, because you don't only have to set it up in the classroom, explain everything real quick, and then the kids are off and ready to go, and they learn like tons. So what I wanted to do in the last 20 minutes is to discuss. Well, I was hoping for some more people that we could split up in different languages and come up with topics, because I think it's sometimes very language, what's the word, specific. I mean, you cannot make a language box for French and talk about Gutenberg, because, I mean, that is not the French person, because you also need to think about the cultural background. So I don't know, you teach French, I don't know what you guys all teach. So Spanish, what? English? Yeah, even English. I mean,
I had a question.
Yeah.
What are some of your thoughts on, so like German and French,
Yeah.
there are going to be lots of cognates. It's
Yeah.
probably Spanish too.
Mm-hmm.
What if it's like Arabic or Japanese?
Well, then you cannot use cognates.
I was wondering what your ideas on like adapting your idea for something that's a little...
I haven't looked into Arabic because I cannot read it. I probably would think about more cultural things that are related, and then see if I can get translations about those words.
There's so many words and concepts that have come from Arabic, so I think you could tap into that. And you could, I mean, algebra, for example. Is
Oh, yeah. Math would be fantastic, yeah.
Zero, yeah. There's so much with math and astronomy and things like
Yeah,
that are...
that would be a perfect topic, math and astronomy, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And also, I think what you could do is you could kind of like already have a more language kind of related activity there in Arabic and in English, and comparing. Or even using Google Translate, basically just like putting it in there and just like, okay, just look it up and see what that kind of like translates to.
Well, when you look at this, you're teaching it in the student's native language, and then they're exploring a different language.
Yes,
And
that was
so-
the initial concept, yeah.
And so in terms of what you want them to carry away from it, you want them to have encountered some words, to
Yeah.
believe they can learn a few words, to learn something that's specific to Germany, that German children would learn about.
Yeah.
And so in an American classroom, this is exposure, so you're connecting to the history of another country connected to that science that you would also be exposed to. But if you're in a dual language program, they
Yeah.
have to teach this content. And a lot of those teachers, when they're working, they have expertise in one area or another, and they don't know necessarily how to draw those connections. They're not trained to draw those connections. And so I think there's a really important role for this kind of thing, like defining the lessons and defining them in such a way that you're saying, this is what we're calling cultural content, but we're doing it in a dynamic way.
Yeah.
It gives you more insight. It's not just saying, here's a little piece of culture that we're
Yeah,
sharing with you.
yeah. I mean, this is really. You have to see what are the people that you're giving this box to. As I said, this is really for people with no language background, just to make them curious to pick up a language later, because they hear a little bit and think, yeah, this is actually cool. I want to do that later. For on college level, they already have probably some German knowledge or some other language knowledge, so it has to look different.
I was just going to say a side remark. I've been asked by the organizers of the MSc Science Festival if we want to do anything, and now I can see. I
Yes.
have your email.
Poor grad student with not a lot of time. Oh, okay.
They're all ready because they have
Oh, that's in April, right?
April.
Yeah.
And they're probably all set with their presenters and everything.
Yeah. Next year I have more time.
I think it's already come up in conversation that you have faculty who come from all over the world, and those faculty may not know how to bring their existing language skills together with whatever it is here in the sciences that they do.
Yeah.
They may not see. I mean, there should be like a grant to get to tap into that combination of skills.
Yeah.
But so thinking about how this would translate to the college setting, for one thing I kept thinking, oh, we'll just put it all online, and then the students can access it, and they can do these different things. And yet, one of the things I think is really powerful about this is that it's so hands-on.
Yeah. I mean, especially with this topic, it's just
Exactly.
yeah.
And even opening the box,
Yeah.
it's so hands-on.
Like, what's in there? Presents.
And so even if it was available online, you would say print all of these things out, but here's how you want to present it.
Yeah.
So that it will have the kind of influence and excitement.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and here you can see that my roots with elementary school are really strong. I immediately had the setup in the classroom, like, oh yeah, there's one station and another one, and then kids can walk around and do and measure in the middle, and have them, oh, they are building flying machines, like, oh, I want to do that too. So this is, yeah, as I said, that's why it's important to see where I came from, because this is...
whole thing, how many hours did it take?
To create that?
Sorry,
For me to create this?
no, to teach that whole session.
Well, with those 7 kids, it was 2 hours. But they were really smart kids
Okay.
and a small group.
Now I'm going to shut my mouth.
I was just wondering, Leonie, what your thoughts were on, like, I've been involved in Belgium in pretty much the same thing, and I was just like, one thing I felt like we worked on a similar project for a big technology science museum.
Uh-huh.
And what also really worked, if you would expand this, is link this to a storyline approach.
Oh,
So
yeah.
kind of a narrative, a story that basically brings the children in what they're going to do and connects even all these activities.
Yeah.
So that's one thing that you could think about. It's like even have a story about 2 characters
Yeah.
that are. We did it. It was focused on space. So these were like 2 kids whose mother was a scientist.
Yeah.
and
Yeah, I mean,
a
to
secret
just
space
start,
jam
yeah,
and
of course.
so
Yeah,
on.
I can totally see that,
And
yeah.
you see how that would basically also stimulate their imagination and
Yeah.
really gets them into
Yeah.
the work. But the other thing was,
to expand from it.
yes,
Mm-hmm.
and to expand on it, and then they could even, like Leonardo da Vinci, start building little planes and all
Yeah.
that kind of stuff. But one thing that I was like, because like with the German now, for example,
Mm-hmm.
From a task-based perspective, I always feel like people need to be even more challenged to learn the language and like be pushed a little bit more. So I was
Yeah.
immediately, when you saw the instructions of folding the plane,
Mm-hmm.
why wouldn't you just present them in German? Or why not, perhaps not all of them,
Mm-hmm.
but like even just like one of the crucial ones, just present them in German, and then they might.
Yeah,
to
so I
the
put
task
exactly that for the
in
intermediate
the
level.
intermediate
Yeah.
level. I was
Mhm.
like, why not even already at the basic level? Because they can read,
Yeah.
they can always try to figure it out. It is a little bit like,
And they can see
a
what's
mystery,
happening
but it's
anyways,
something
yeah.
crucial that they would basically involve them more in the code
Mhm.
and kind of cracking.
That's
the
a good
code
idea,
for
yeah.
German So I wouldn't.
Even things that we're afraid to do, like if they
Yeah.
have it on paper, they have the instructions in English with
Yeah.
a little bit of German,
Mm-hmm.
but then they watch a how-to video that's only in German,
Yeah.
and then they
Yeah.
have
Yeah.
multiple ways to interact with that so
Yeah.
they can understand
Yeah.
it enough,
Yeah.
and then they want to understand
Yeah.
it more, so you create the desire.
Yeah, I think that's what. Yeah, there's a lot of interesting of German there with the culture, but like even engaging them a little bit more. Okay, we're even going to figure out the language, how it works.
Yeah, I think honestly my folding instructions are without words anyways.
Yeah.
But I mean, yeah,
Sometimes it's
putting them in
very-
German there would totally work. Yeah,
Yeah.
I didn't think
Yeah.
about that. Yeah.
I think that marketing it to language teachers, if you want to make it, if you want to integrate this with language learning courses,
mhm.
so what you're doing is in a mainstream course that they're bringing this in.
Yeah.
But if it's in language learning, then it would be a matter of just going back to proficiency-based instruction and saying these are the statements
Exactly.
that describe what they're going to be able to
Yeah.
do with the
Yeah.
language. And the flip side is that it gives teachers a very concrete reason and opportunity to get students to use
Yeah.
these.
I mean, I came up with the idea because my boys had some STEAM project in school. And I thought, well, this is actually, I mean, something like, it wasn't even airplanes. I think it was earth erosion or something like that. But I said, it's really nice that they're doing this a whole week, like a project, everything is geared towards that. And it would be nice if we then top it up with a coding of language. That's how this idea kind of was born, even before I had the class. But yeah, but as I said, so I'm not sure, since I'm just starting to teach on college level and on undergrad level. I know this is way too easy and boring, and they have some language background anyways. But what would you do, because you have more experience of teaching a language under your belt than I will ever have? What would you do? I mean, you immediately said, let's do it online. Let's, put some movies and give them like a interactive website or whatever to kind of look through those things by themselves. Is this how you would approach that in a language
I would
class?
have them create that.
Oh,
The
create that,
project would
nice.
be having them create that as they go along in the course.
Ah, that's
and that
smart.
you'd be giving them a challenge,
Uh-huh.
and that challenge might last across months.
Mhm.
Maybe you don't do that, maybe in a given week.
Mhm.
Maybe you have, 4 full hours of instructional time in a given week, and you spend, 1.5 to 2 hours of your instructional time on this, or something like that. That it's not like it takes over the whole class,
Yeah,
but that you have a challenge and then
a semester-long
over time,
project.
You have many
Yeah.
different tasks that tie into that theme.
Mm-hmm.
And then they get to see that progression over time, and they're creating something
Yeah.
that's interconnecting,
Mm-hmm.
that then becomes a resource by the end of the semester
Yeah.
that they can keep and share with others. And
I like that.
Or even if they had like 10 minutes at the end of class dedicated to working on a project,
Mhm.
and like if there was some type of information gap, so like say they had to build a bridge or something.
Yeah.
Like some students would have certain information on like the target language, and they have to understand it and be able to communicate and explain it in the target
Mhm.
language to their
Yeah.
partners to work together and create something.
Yeah,
Like that would be really fun.
Yeah.
I think.
If the bridge isn't built well, it just collapses.
Yeah.
exactly. And you can test that pretty quickly.
the idea about curating a museum.
Mhm.
Think about curating a museum or welcoming guests to a museum, and how museums will have the resources in multiple languages.
Mhm.
So even just going to a museum website that has their materials available in multiple languages,
Yeah.
and having the students look at the same materials in English and German.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
We don't do that a lot. We don't
No.
sit there with parallel texts and look at how they're connected. But I think there's a lot of good possibilities for
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, I think especially for the transdisciplinary chances that are in this project there, especially on a campus like MSU, where we will have a STEM building right next door, and we have this wonderful museum that some students have never set a foot in, right? Mhm.
The MSU Museum has a lot of resources.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So for the A in STEAM,
Yeah.
it made me think of something that we tried a few years ago in our French camp.
Mm-hmm.
So we actually, we were teaching them French and everything, and then I made contact with this lady who was working in WKAR, and she was very into art, French art and things, and an amateur painter of sorts.
Mhm.
So I had her come and actually explain about Impressionist painting with Monet to the kids, and she actually talked about the elements that are typically on an Impressionist painting, and had the kids create their own Monet
Yeah.
versions.
And we have the art center right here. They offer
Yes.
classes for kids even on Saturdays. So.
Yeah. So explaining what colors to use
Mhm.
and how do you do this so that it's
Mhm.
kind of like not really specific, but a little blended, and how to, just the science behind it. Of course, she doesn't know as much French, but I could see how this thing could be incorporated a little bit in that to, have the kids, again, do a hands-on with.
Yeah, I mean, even when you think about literature, I mean, it's hard for beginner level to really read a whole book, but we have the comic section at MSU, the big, like, world biggest comic collection here at MSU. So you can look at the comics from a certain language, and you don't understand every word, but you see the pictures and you grasp whatever you can, and it helps to read a whole book, even if it's only, and I really say only in big quotation marks, only a comic, right? Or like, say, a graphic novel. Sounds better. Yeah.
Also another, just another in terms of idea, and this we did in one of our enrichment programs in the middle school in Holt, where an undergraduate student went out there for a few weeks. But this was for students who are already learning Spanish as an extension, working on these kinds of stuff. So what she did was she just got a list of the kinds of topics and vocabulary that the students have already seen, and she built a kind of a 5 or 6 week schedule with those topics, but went in there to provide some more extensions to that. So for example, with the topic of food, she went in there, instead of just giving them vocabulary and stuff, they talked about the food pyramid, how many calories, what's healthy. So
adding, there's math.
Exactly. Yeah. So she did that, and she had, but that was for students who were already.
Well, yeah, but I mean, eventually, I would love to have those boxes differentiated by level and knowledge.
So like it fell under your intermediate level, where they already had some basis, and, they had the vocabulary that they had seen in class, and then you're coming and using that in a very concrete way. And the student had an opportunity before doing this program to go to Mexico. So she brought back like cereal boxes that have all those, how much iron, 3%, so they went through all of that stuff, like you said, with the numbers and the calorie count and whatever else that she wanted to incorporate. So that worked very well.
Yeah, other questions or ideas? I mean, I'm really hoping that eventually I can create a box and at least test it in an undergrad class that I'm hopefully teaching in the future. But I mean, those ideas they are still flying to me because I have so much worked in elementary school. That's why I have the first prototype box geared toward that age group. But I would like to do that for undergrad students as well. And I mean, their beginner level is a different beginner level than elementary school kids, right? Although I think they would also appreciate some paper airplane folding.
In high school, there are so many science experiments that don't, well, perhaps they don't all fit in that box, but box, but that don't require that much material.
Yeah. Yeah, and even if you would do it online, then you don't, I mean, I get it that I know the last time I presented this, I forgot to open the box and tell what's in there. And I'm like, whoa, what's in the box? Show me what's in the box. This is like, now I'm showing you, this is like opening a present almost, right? It has something to it, that it's like a physical thing.
and even like you have the little meter there, which is wonderful, but also they could make one.
Of course, yeah. For sure, yeah. That's why I made it myself to show them. Well, this is just mine, but you can. It's easy with a roll of toilet paper and some yarn. Just make your own. Yeah, for sure. It is intended to be a self-project, self-made thing.
So this is a little plug for next week, but it's turning out that Özgen Hostuk has been working with process drama for a long time, and in process drama, in a way, it's the same thing we were talking about, where you would have a project that extends over a long period of time, and you would sort of let it expand in different directions and different types of tasks that are related to that overarching story. And so with his work in process drama, there's a framework for how that story might then be elaborated. And so putting those things together to say, okay, well, how can we make it, that there's some kind of challenge related to an airplane or to space travel or something like this. And that's a starting place, and then you just know how you're going to expand from there.
Yeah, absolutely.
With the students, but it seems like a really unrelated thing and is much closer to the arts. And yet that idea of carrying out over time and incorporating many different types of tasks into one project is related.
Yeah, I think, and this is what, I mean, I've heard that phrase, well-rounded student, while I was talking about this with some professor. So this rounds it even more, I think. The more disciplines you bring in, the better rounded it is. And it's not bumpy, it's really round in the end. And that's what we need, I mean, I think. Yeah. Okay. I know it's 2 minutes, but yeah, you're welcome.
Nobody has eaten an pizza yet, so it might be a little